Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great because I'm finally able to record a video again. Apologies for taking like over a week off. I got swamped by school. And on top of that, the Starfield salt, it's starting to dry up a little bit. I could just keep milking the Twitter salt, but that doesn't seem like very much fun, honestly. So unless I can find any more Starfield salt, this might be the last video I make on the game, at least for a while. Although don't worry, I have seen the clips on Twitter from MBG's stream where he gets really mad that Alex and Frit are gaining a lot of subs. So that may be content worthy, who knows? But whatever, we're not here to talk about MBG today. We are here to talk about Harman Smith and how Starfield is apparently a complete failure, even though at this point I think it has over 10 million players. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but who knows, maybe we'll be enlightened. But hold on, before we get into the video, I am very happy to announce that I got a sponsor for this video. Now, if you've looked into cloud gaming at all, I'm sure you would have heard about Boostroid at one point. It's an awesome cloud gaming service that lets you play hundreds of games from Steam, Epic, and more. If you've wanted to get into PC gaming, but maybe can't afford the native hardware that you need, Boostroid is a great way to get into it, especially since you can either play from your browser on PC, you can download the app on PC, you can download the app on Samsung TVs, or you can download the app to your Android phone. After I downloaded the app, all I had to do was link my Steam account, and then I was able to play almost every single game I owned on Steam, which yes, you still do have to have a licensed copy of the game in order to play it. And of course, since it's cloud gaming, it's being streamed to you. Input latency and other things will be determined based on your connection. The better connection you have, the better experience you'll have. For example, my school has really good Wi-Fi, so as you can see right here, I ran the connection check and I was all good to go. And I did actually play a bit on the service myself. I had a really good time. I actually played some Doom 2016 and it was a lot of fun. So if you're interested in the service, I'll have a link in the description to their speed test. And if you decide you want to try the service out for yourself, please be sure to click my link in the description and give it a shot. Again, thank you to Boostroid for sponsoring this video. And with all that said, let's go ahead and get right into this.
It's been, what, a couple of days now? Is it all right? Is it acceptable to come out and finally admit that Starfield was not a very good video game? That it's filled with glitches, that the pacing is terrible, the general gameplay loop is terrible, the engine is terrible, the mechanics are terrible, the writing is terrible, the character models are terrible, the visuals are terrible, gunplay, the variety. Like, this is a complete disaster in every way, shape, and form.
Okay, look, you can criticize the writing of a game without playing it because obviously you don't need to play the game to know what the story is. But pretty much anything else, especially gunplay and that sort of stuff, any actual gameplay, you have to play the game yourself to know if you like it or not. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, you have not played this game, Harman. I mean, you claim you have a super powerful gaming PC, but we never see it, and I would genuinely like to see it in one of these videos. Granted, it's probably a MacBook Air from 10 years ago, but I would still like to see it nonetheless. And I just think it's very funny how he's gonna complain about things like graphics and character models and stuff, when this dude used to damage control a ton for Scarlet and Violet. Probably the worst Pokemon game launch ever, at least in terms of how the actual game was, because I mean, it still sold well, but in terms of performance and graphics, it's probably the worst Pokemon game ever. Which I guess that is another thing you could obviously judge even without playing the game. I mean, if the game looks like crap, then obviously, yes, you could say that without actually having to play the game. But Starfield definitely doesn't look bad. Is it the best looking game ever? Hell no. But it definitely looks pretty good.
And as of right now, in spite of a handful of middling review scores, nobody really wants to admit it. Everybody bent over backwards trying to pretend that Tears of the Kingdom was a disappointment and one of the worst games ever made. But when Starfield comes out, is objectively a complete disaster, an abject failure in every way, shape, and form. This is a mod of Skyrim, essentially.
Harman, genuinely, who said that Tears of the Kingdom was one of the worst games ever made? Please give a single example. And I love the argument, oh, Starfield's objectively a failure and a disaster. Yet the 10 million plus players who have played the game would beg to differ. Obviously, the game is not perfect. I myself gave it an 8 out of 10. But to call it a complete disaster and an objective failure, that is such cap. I mean, Bethesda themselves came out and said this is their most successful launch of all time. And look, you can have your opinion on the game, assuming, you've actually played it, but you can't deny this has been a massive success for Bethesda and Xbox.
When this game comes out, it is as underwhelming, as disappointing, and as boring as it is. Why exactly is there not fan outrage? Where exactly is the backlash? Where exactly is the controversy? Why aren't people refunding this game en masse, selling their Xboxes, ending their Xbox Game Pass subscriptions, buying Nintendo Switch, like getting away from Bethesda and their nonsense? Because
hear me out, it's because not everybody hates the game as much as you do. Millions of people at least like this game. Just because you hate a game doesn't mean all of a sudden everybody else is gonna start refunding the game, selling their Xboxes, and buying Nintendo Switches. But dude, are you really gonna try and say there's no controversy around this game? Where have you been recently? People either seem to really love this game or really hate this game, and there doesn't seem to be much of an in-between. Now granted, a lot of the hate comes from people on Twitter who haven't even played the game. And that's not to say that all the hate isn't valid. Like, there's plenty of negative Steam reviews that are obviously valid because on Steam you have to actually buy and play the game before you can review it. But so much of the outrage over this game, especially with like the loading screens and stuff, I don't know, it felt so manufactured. Especially when most of the time the people who are propagating the outrage are people like the Red Dragon. Whatever, point is, where have you been? There has been a ton of outrage over this game.
It didn't take a genius to predict that this would happen, right? I told you guys over and over again going into this game isn't going to be that great. It's going to be underwhelming. It's going to have, Todd lied about everything. There were all these red flags, all these situations, all these issues, right? There were all these problems with this game that nobody wanted to talk about or address at all.
Again, people have absolutely been talking about the issues in this game. You're just ignoring it because I guess you want to make up some fake narrative where they haven't and you're the only one who can see the truth. I don't know, man, but what exactly did Todd lie about with this game? Like, this is a genuine question. Like, I know the meme, oh, Todd Howard and the sweet little lies. But like, genuinely, what did he lie about with this game? I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't like it when he said, oh, just upgrade your computer in response to the bad optimization. But I mean, he didn't lie about anything. Unless you're running with King Thrash's tweet that he lied about the exploration, which I would not be surprised about. But God, I just can't believe that he's trying to pull the I told you so card. It truly does prove there's no winning with these guys. I mean, Bethesda themselves came out and said this is their most successful launch, and then Harman still makes this video saying the game was a failure and that he told us this was gonna happen. You cannot make this up.
All anybody wanted to do was just pretend, leading up to release, that this was a Game of the Year contender, that this was going to be a system seller for Xbox, that this was going to be the game that put Bethesda back on the map, that made them great, that really showed Nintendo who's boss, like proved that Bethesda could still put out good, high-quality, open-world RPG content,
I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of longtime Bethesda fans say that this is a good return to form. Old Bethesda is back. Sure, this isn't their greatest game ever made, but it's a pretty damn good one. And no, we're not pretending that this is a Game of the Year contender, which it's funny because Harman kept saying that the Game Awards don't matter, yet he constantly talks about them. But whatever, I would definitely say this is a Game of the Year contender. Do I think it's gonna win? No. Either Baldur's Gate 3 or Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is gonna win. And while I believe that Spider-Man 2 will be put up for Game of the Year, I definitely don't think it's gonna win. But as for the game being a system seller for Xbox, it quite literally is one. After the Starfield Direct, I'm pretty sure Xbox sales, and it was some European country, it may have been France, I'm not exactly sure, but Xbox sales in some European countries went up by like 1,000%. This game was selling consoles before it even came out, and I love that he brings it back to Nintendo again. Like, dude, who was using Starfield to like put down Nintendo? Genuine question. I don't think a single person was saying, oh yeah, Starfield is really gonna stick it to Nintendo. I think you made that up so you'd have an excuse to White Knight for them again.
Like, this was going to be the next evolution of that genre. This was going to leave everything else in the dust. Like, Bethesda was going to bring forth the next generation in video games, right? This was going to be one of the best games ever made. And what happens? It comes out, nobody cares for it. Everybody's just kind of playing through it because they don't do anything else. They have no hobbies. They have no interests. They don't play better games, which there are like dozens of examples this year alone. They don't read. They don't have any like real lives, all they do is just wait for the next major video game announcement, like next video game to come out, and then they'll just play that.
Damn, that is some insane projection right there. Just replace next big video game with next big Nintendo game and you have Harman. And I just love it. There's over 10 million players, but what does Harman say to that? He can't admit that it's actually a good game or that it did well. He just resorts to, oh, well, people are playing it because they have nothing else to play. Okay, yeah, sure, bud. And again, who was saying this was going to be one of the greatest games of all time besides like some Xbox fanboys on Twitter? Again, you're just making stuff up in your mind so you have an excuse to make a video praising Nintendo. You know, honestly, the more I watch this video, the more depressed I'm feeling. We are truly witnessing a broken man who just cannot accept that a non-Nintendo game actually did well and is enjoyed by millions of people.
Like, Starfield came out this week. Like, what did I do instead? You know, I was doing stuff. You know, I was writing. I was reading One Piece. I was playing Advance Wars, Hollow Knight, countless other games, you know, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is still better than anything Bethesda ever put out. Like, I was playing real stuff, you know, real high quality product, like far beyond anything that non-Nintendo gamers have ever played.
So obviously you can tell I had to jump ahead a little bit because he went on this rant about Fallout 3, and it had nothing to do with anything, and also I've never played Fallout 3, so I can't really say much on it. But God, I just love it. If you're not a Nintendo gamer, then you've never experienced real quality games before. And also, okay, cool, so you read One Piece and you played some Advanced Wars. Do you want a round of applause or something? Like, obviously you were never going to play Starfield. You probably never will play Starfield. Of course, when it came out, you weren't going to be playing it. You never had interest in playing it in the first place. But just because you haven't played the game doesn't mean it's suddenly a massive failure. I truly do not get you, Harman. I truly do not get you.
And it's just like, why exactly do we have to do this every time? Like, why exactly do I have to tell you that, like, Starfield isn't going to be good, and then, like, have my opinion be validated, and then, like, have everyone just move on to the next thing? And that is what's happening right now, is that, like, all anybody's doing is getting excited for the next thing. And right now, I don't think there's really anything this year that, like, people can fall back on. Like, I think what people are going to do this year is, like, pretend that they're just going to, like, replay Baldur's Gate 3 over and over and over again and, like, yeah, get to, like, every possible, like, sexual degenerate, like, situation they possibly can.
Ah yes, if people say they're gonna replay Baldur's Gate 3, they're just pretending. Nobody actually likes that game. But also, we don't have to keep doing this thing where you say something's gonna be bad and then apparently your opinion is validated, even though you never played the game, and the overall reception is mostly positive. This cycle keeps happening because you can't admit that you're wrong about something. If it's a game that people are getting excited for and it's not made by Nintendo, then what you'll do is you'll be mad at it. You'll give it a ton of crap before it even comes out. You'll say it doesn't look good, and then after it comes out and a lot of people love it, and it gets really good review scores, then you'll say, oh, I was right all along. People don't like the game. They're just pretending to like it because they don't have anything better to do. And then we repeat. Only you can break this cycle, Harman, and I challenge you to do that.
I imagine a big part of why Starfield is failing, and this failing, is because of the Game Pass thing. A service that is losing Microsoft billions of dollars every year is, most people are just downloading on Game Pass, realizing the game is shit, and then just stop playing, right? That is the life cycle of this game, right? It's no different than Yakuza or Hollow Knight or any of these other games that, like, come out on Game Pass that doesn't appeal to, like, the Call of Duty playing, like, chronic masturbating, like, just soy boy gamer cuck, right?
Even more projection. Good lord, dude. But also, you may notice I had to jump ahead again. He just wasn't talking about Starfield, and I'm trying to keep this video on track. But I love how he says, oh, Starfield is failing, and it's all because of Game Pass. Dude, Starfield's success is probably partially due to Game Pass. The game definitely wouldn't have as many players if Game Pass didn't exist, and that's why it's so good. But no, dude, Game Pass is not losing Microsoft billions each year. Do you really think they would be pushing it so hard if they really were losing so much money each year. Phil Spencer has come out multiple times and said Game Pass is profitable. But here's a genuine question. What is so wrong with people being able to download a game and then if they don't like it, they can uninstall it and they haven't wasted any money? Also, I love the fact that he's running with the argument that, oh yeah, most people just installed it on Game Pass and then uninstalled it after they realized it was bad. How do you know that, though? That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source? He does not have a source, and that's why he's wrong about most things.
Like, this is the reality of modern gaming, is that, like, real gamers are playing classic games. They are playing, like, games in niche genres. They are experimenting with with old games they've never heard of before. They are constantly finding new high-quality brands from developers they never heard of.
So to be a real gamer, you have to play old games and niche games from developers you've never heard of before. Well, I guess that makes me a real gamer, because like with Risk of Rain 2, for example, I had never heard of the studio who made it until I played it. Also, wait a second, Harman, the Dark Souls genre is considered niche. Does that mean if you play Elden Ring, you're a real gamer? No, that's impossible. But Harman, I guess by that logic, you're just not a real gamer because you play a lot of stuff from Nintendo, and you have definitely heard of Nintendo before. To be honest, I don't even know why you included this point. I mean, probably because you don't do any editing on your videos whatsoever. But yeah, guys, I guess if playing niche games is all it takes to be a real gamer, then I fall into that category because I play Souls-likes.
You know, whether it's like Intelligent Systems or Falcom or like Platinum Games or like anybody really, right? There are so many great developers out there putting out high quality content that like I never even considered buying Starfield, because I can tell you there are dozens of better alternatives out there that make the idea of Starfield completely pointless, right?
Okay, then please name these games. Go ahead, I'll wait. I don't think you can do it, guys. Obviously, yes, there are games that have the similar space theme to Starfield, like No Man's Sky and Star Citizen, but Starfield is unique because of the RPG elements. I'm pretty sure there hasn't been a space game that's done it in the same way that Starfield has. I know No Man's Sky sure as hell hasn't done that. I mean, you say you can name dozens of alternatives to Starfield, but I really don't think you can. Now, obviously, you can name other games that tackle certain aspects of space better than Starfield, but I'm really racking my brain and I can't think of another game that could be an alternative to Starfield.
You know, I was not surprised to see this game fail the way it has. I've been speaking out about it for a long time. Nobody believed me because they never do. Like, oh man, Harman Smith, he's just a Nintendo fanboy. It's not like he has a high-end PC that he can play all these games day one if he wanted to. No, he's just a Nintendo fan. Oh, he doesn't own these better pieces of hardware, and that's why he's so delusional about this. No.
Yes, that is absolutely true. Again, I ask, could you please show us this very expensive PC that can play all these games day one? I would love to see it. And once again, dude, you were wrong. Starfield did not fail. You can have your opinion on it, but 10 million players in 2 or 3 weeks is really good. Not to mention the 1 million concurrent players. So yes, you are just a delusional Nintendo fanboy. And you can deny that all you want, but that's just the truth. But yeah, anyway, guys, with all that being said, that's gonna do it for this video. There is a little bit more to Harman's video, but it's just him, you know, praising himself as a video game connoisseur. He knows everything about the gaming industry, and it's just not worth talking about. So yeah, with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more. Don't forget to check out Boostroid in the description, and I will catch you all next time.